University Matters, and you will recall that on the 5th of August 2022, the University of Ghana woke up to some alleged violent clashes between students of the Commonwealth Hall and the Mensa Saba Hall. Some will say annex, but well, that's what it is. That led the University Governing Council to move for some decision making or policy ruling out. And this, on the back of, has generated into some other discussions. Some believe even leading to the suspension of some student members or JCR members or executives at the Commonwealth Hall. This is still rolling out, and to unpack the very issues surrounding this incident, we may call it, we have with us in the studio to my far left, Mr. Emmanuel Hansen, who is the Deputy Secretary of the Greater Accra Region Old Vandals. We also have with us Mr. Samson Tago, a former University of Ghana SRC PRO, also the former Commonwealth Hall PRO. Gentlemen, you are welcome.
Thank you.
We'll also be joined via Zoom by Mrs. Pascaline Sorry if I got your name wrong, please forgive me. She is the Assistant Registrar, Public Affairs Department at the University of Ghana. Welcome, Madam Pascaline, if you can hear me. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going straight into the discussion, and I will start with Mr. Hansen. Mr. Hansen, thank you very much once again, and Happy New Year to you.
Many happy returns, Tario, and it's a pleasure seeing you once again. And I can see you are looking sharp this morning. Let me say good morning to your cherished viewers all over the world, and also to the Vandal fraternity all over the world. And we say a very big thank you for giving us this platform to also, enlighten some of the public out there, and also to bring to their attention some of the core issues that is happening within the university fraternity. So we are here this morning, and we would like to, go through some of the core fundamental issues. First of all, let me start by saying that just last year, that is August, you made reference of last year, there was a clash between the University of Ghana, Mensa Saba Hall, and also that of Commonwealth Hall. Now, management in the university, issue a statement, and in the statement, they indicated that investigations are still ongoing, and that the Hall Master of Commonwealth Hall, that is our very own Dr. Francis J, and the senior tutor should be relieved of their duty. And it raised a lot of concerns, because when two institutions, get into a clash, you realize that if one party is being sanctioned and the other is not, you realize that it raises some form of unfairness and injustice within the university fraternity. Now, the investigations are still ongoing, and management then followed on with another, statement that that is the continuing students of Commonwealth Hall and also Mensa Saba Hall should not be, admitted into residence. What it basically means that these students will not be given that opportunity to, of residence in their respective hall. Now, we believe that now, first of all, you have instituted a residential board that ensures that some of these issues are discussed. You have key stakeholders involved. Now, I wanted to refer to you on some of the university's own statutes, where it makes even old vandals who are alumni of the university a part or a key member within the university. Under the University of Ghana Statute, 806, which talks about the composition of membership, where alumni are part of the university. When you are taking such a decision, you need to involve the old vandal, because you want a long-lasting solution. And we believe that some of these knee-jerk approach doesn't yield the positive outcome. I wanted to share, when I came in, I wanted to share with you some of the residential facilities that are in University of Ghana, which are so expensive. Now, in the traditional hall,
we will come to that. Let me say that, not to cut you, but let me say that while this discussion will be ongoing, Professor Ransford Jampo, who is the president or secretary of UTAG, University of Ghana, will join us also via Zoom.
Thank you.
And I'm not quite sure if I actually asked the first question. I introduced you and you took it over. You've gone for quite a bit. Let me bring taking from what he has said, Mr. Tagbo, are your issues really about the absence of fairness in the matter of the clash and the way the university had handled it, or that there are more to it than we know?
All right, so thank you, and thank you to all the old vandals who are doing the watching and the listening. Old vandals like the former President John Dramani Mahama, old vandals like the current Chief Justice, Justice Enimi Mbwa, old vandals like the current Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana, Joe Wise, and a host of many. But let us zoom into the substantive issue. Look, our issues has to do with unfairness, 1, injustice, 2, illegal conduct of the university management, 3, and unconstitutional discharge of, punishment, if you want to call it that way. Why? Because we are in a democratic dispensation. Every organization delights in a serene environment to operate. There is no single vendor who is going to countenance the attitude and actions of people whose behavior would somehow cause some disturbances within the campus premises.
Okay.
But what we are saying is that in instances where there exist laws and rules, if you have any challenges, the implementation of remedial or punishment to those who are found guilty should be in accordance with the law and not whimsical. What the university management is doing at the moment, the sanctions they are applying to the students in a way of calling it a residential board, new directive, is an albatross on the face of the law. You claimed that you had a residential board meeting on 26th of October 2022. And at that meeting, few decisions were made. Among the decisions that were made at that meeting was that the university should consider some adjustment to the residential policy. And you said that the only reason why you are taking that decision at the time was to stop the purported continuous clash between the members of the Commonwealth Hall.
Are these purported, or these are real clashes that took place?
Well, we can refer to them as purported because as of now, we don't have any authority that went into investigation to establish that students A, B, C, D from Commonwealth or Saga were found guilty for these particular clashes. You know, the university is a public institution. People can come in, orchestrate actions, and exit without anybody knowing.
Do I get an impression, or is it your view that the university is acting prejudicial?
It is not an impression. It is a valid fact. If you are saying that people misconducted themselves in a manner that frowns on the integrity of the university, our criminal jurisprudence is clear on some of these actions. What do? You conduct investigation, search for those culprits, then you can exact your punishment. You cannot, for want of a better word, being lazy in your approach in terms of investigation, decided to punish innocent students who were not part of whatsoever mishappening or misgivings that you want to attribute the punishment to.
Mr. Tagbo, Mr. Tagbo, are you aware that the investigation you referred to has, as we speak, been completed, and on the back of their findings, whatever actions the university is taking currently is informed by that investigation? Are you aware if it's concluded or not?
The investigation is not concluded. In fact, even as we speak.
Are you aware if it is completed or not completed?
I'm aware it is not completed. If it is completed, where are the findings? There are stakeholders involved in this issue. If the investigation is concluded, where are the findings? What were the recommendations? You cannot implement recommendations of an investigation when the general public that is interested. When people who are interested in the issues are not being furnished with the fine details of the outcome of the investigation.
What has been, let me ask the two of you this question. What has been your level of engagement with the university authorities as far as this investigation is concerned?
In fact, our level of engagement as a whole regarding this issue, I should say that the university is not interested in sitting down with the stakeholders of the whole. And I'll give you examples. On 26th
that's a serious statement to make.
I'll give you examples.
No, that's a very serious statement.
And it is a statement of fact, because you can verify that statement and clarify that.
Hold it there for me. I have Mrs. Pascaline Songsori on the phone, via Zoom, who's joining us, and we're going to bring her on, and I'm going to put this before her. If the university is acting really extrajudicial or putting the cart before the horse, just even before the investigations are concluded on whatever the outcome or the incidents has been on campus. Good morning. If you can hear me, Mrs. Pascaline Songsori, you are being accused this morning of acting outside of the law, and that you are not necessarily waiting for the outcome of the investigation before you apply any punishment. And this, your accusers are saying, is what the university is doing. How do you respond to that?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you clearly, ma'am.
Yes, it's Ms. Pascaline Songsori.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I've listened to the representatives of the Old Vandal Association. I think that I need to start by saying that the students in the University of Ghana who are junior members are very important to us, and the university would not just make decisions or take certain actions without going through the necessary process. Remember that the university is governed by statutes and there's an act and all of that. The university would not. And in all of these processes, remember that there were 3 incidents, and in all of these processes, there were investigations. And these investigations bring out findings. And as the findings, and there are recommendations as well. So they are implemented as and when these recommendations are made. Well, there was a comment that it was a knee-jerk approach and all that. It was not a knee-jerk approach, as I said. These clashes cost the university a lot of time and resources, because I'm sitting here, I should have been doing something, else. So the whole residential policy, new residential policy that was instituted is supposed to enable us to create that congenial atmosphere and environment for academic work to go on, for quality teaching and learning, which is part of the mission of the University of Ghana. So the university would just not sit up and then just say that, okay, we are taking this action because we don't like this person's or that other person. But there are processes. There are always processes. And I must also say that people who feel aggrieved, even students who feel aggrieved, there are processes they can also go through for redress. It's very important that I state that. Also, I think there was a statement saying that the students were kicked out and not given the opportunity to be admitted into residence. And I would like to debunk that before I move any further. When the residence board met, they said in order not to throw these students out completely, because we needed to get them a place, they were offered. Remember that the university offers admission, and residential facility or residential accommodation is not attached to your admission.
Sure.
Spaces available are made available to students. They go online and then they pick if it's available. The university has the right to change its policy as and when. And this is not the first time this has happened. And so, for the sake of peace, as we've said earlier, there have been 3 clashes. Okay. 3 clashes in October 2021, in March 2022, and in August 2022. And we can't continue like this. So I would like to say that there have been a lot of discussions, a lot of committees set. We are aware that there was even an external person who was brought in, to do some security, for a committee to be set up to look at something. And some recommendations were made. So it is not, I want to debunk what was said earlier, that the decisions are whimsical and all of those comments, and to say that we are governed by rules and regulations, and these were followed.
Right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Pascaline Songsori. Let me go straight to Okay. I think I'm changing your title. You're supposed to be Miss, and I keep calling you Mrs. Forgive me. Let me go to Professor Jampo, who's also on Zoom with us. Professor Jampo, I have some of your old vandals with me in the studio, and I'm sure you may have listened to some of their introductions and some of the things they have said about your actions or inactions. They have also leveled some accusations against you, some which Ms. Songsori has responded to. Let me ask you, what is the university's policy on resource allocation, especially when it comes to accommodation, and why, if any, have you moved on the back of these clashes to change them without necessarily engaging effectively with your students?
Well, I will respond to your question. You have to ask it again. But I think that I heard the two gentlemen in your studio making some wild allegations and also not being quite decorous in their kinds of utterances, referring to the processes of the university as lazy, and then also insisting that as far as they are concerned, no investigation has been completed, and saying also some of these things. I think that with the greatest of respect to them and with the greatest of respect to old vandals, I want to advise that if they want people to go speak for them, they should ensure that they are very well grasped with the issues. People who have their foot on their pedals, so when they are sounding. And to refer to universities' processes as being processes saddled with laziness is below the belt. And because I am speaking for the university, I would pardon them. If it had been one-on-one or me alone speaking, I would have taken them on. I am not a lazy person. The university management are people, members of the university authorities and management are people who got to that position by dint of hard work, and they have integrity and reputation. They are not whimsical and capricious in their approaches to doing anything. And so if our people who are speaking for old vandals are not well socialized about the rules and regulations, I heard the gentleman referring to misquoting statutes and here and there. I'll plead with them. Old vandals. They mentioned very seasoned old vandals, which we all know. Call upon them, those who are very well socialized and grasped about our rules and regulations. Let them come on air to be able to speak so that we can also match them. We can also have a healthy dialogue, because it becomes a bit annoying when you're having to respond to misconduct. It is important that we know that University of Ghana is an institution. It is not a school built by a sole proprietor that determines how goes about whimsical and capricious determination of how it wants to deal with its students. So that if I am the sole proprietor of the school and then you offended me last time at the market, I will tell you that, well, I am going to treat you in this particular manner. If I like you, I favor you. If I don't like you, I treat you harshly. That is not how University of Ghana is run. It is an institution. It is governed by laws. When some of these laws were formulated, you and I were not even born. Some have also been amended to contextualize it, to enable it to meet current exigencies of the time. And so everything that is done in the university is done according to rules and according to laws. You are talking about the current accommodation policy. Long before, please, you are talking about the current accommodation policy.
Yes.
Long before some of these old vandals who are in your studio, got into the university, there used to be a policy like that. In, out, 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 in. Okay? There used to be a policy like that. That policy was relaxed because we were able to raise some resources to build UGEL hostels. And so it created a lot of accommodation avenues for students to be able to find in size of student population as a result of free SHS. That did not come with corresponding increase in infrastructure and accommodation and facilities. We are having to reintroduce the policy of in, out again. And it's been set time again, Commonwealth Hall and Sabah Hall. Because of the class, the policy is supposed to be extended to cover all the halls of residents, in the University of Ghana campus. And take note, these decisions were taken by hall authorities. They were also approved by resident representatives, and then it's also made up of representatives from the hall management. Hall of academic board sits about 4 or 5 hours to deliberate and to discuss and to approve it, and then it moves on from academic board to the university's council, the governing council of the university, and then the council gives a full approval to that decision. Look at the route and the processes that the decision making, went through, and then you sit there as a young man to say that it's a lazy process. Please, we cannot have some of these below the belt comments from people who are expected to be contributing to solving the problem. Ask him, those sitting there, ask them, and then ask their superiors whether they have been able to reach out to University of Ghana management to discuss some of these things, if they really mean well. My position about what they are doing is that they truly do not mean well. They don't mean well for the interests of the students. They don't mean well for the tradition that they so much cherish. Otherwise, if a tradition, you think that for some reason a tradition is being threatened, what do you do? If decisions have been taken and you are not happy about them, what do? You have to reach out to management. But the little of every single opportunity that they got, rather than reaching out to the university management for dialogue so that some consensus will be built, they would rather use the opportunity to malign and to further stoke fire and to say the kinds of things that would rather inflame passions and then also incite students to want to misconduct themselves. But it is not helpful. Look, I have engaged, let me finish. I have engaged some of the leadership of the old vandals behind the scenes, and we have spoken about some of these things that, look, it is in your own interest to rather seek dialogue and build consensus. Let us use dialogue and consensus building to see whether some of these things can be ironed out. The decisions that have been taken are not cast in stones.
Sure.
They were taken because as we sat as management of the university, as we sat as lecturers of the university, we received calls and complaints from parents lamenting. Some were wailing, some were weeping, that they are afraid that if we don't take care, students will be murdered. They are aware that people got so severely injured. Some got almost their eyes being plucked out. Some people had metal objects being used to smash their heads. Vehicles were destroyed. Properties were destroyed. And parents started pleading and wailing and begging. Will you have us keep quiet? Okay? And then sit down for human beings to be murdered before we will take action. And I'm sure that if we allow human beings to be murdered, some of you would hold your media discussions and create platform, and then you use the platform to malign us and to tell us that we've been very irresponsible. Why have we sat down for human beings to be killed? Look, we would not sit down for human beings to be killed before we act. The decisions have been taken. They were not whimsical. Please take note. It is not a decision taken by
Prof. Jampo, Prof. Jampo, I think you have gone around these issues as it is, but you still haven't necessarily responded directly to the question I asked. Prof. Jampo, what is the university position when it comes to accommodation? What is your policy direction when it comes to allocating resources? And if there is any such thing, how aware are your students about this particular policy? And in rolling it out, it appears you have chosen the 2 halls where the clashes allegedly does occur. They also accuse you of not engaging or not interested in engaging them in any their decision making. How do you respond to that, and what would you tell them about the university's position when it comes to allocating resources?
All right, so 2 questions. Number 1, in terms of engagement, if you were paying attention to me, you heard me telling you that we've engaged the student leadership.
But they have mentioned here that you're not interested in engaging them.
Because the decision that we took, came to me, those sitting there were not part because they were not part of student leadership. They were not the leaders. And take note of this. Old vandals are not members of the University of Ghana community. When in trying to take some of these decisions, we are not dictators. We started with the residency board. And I'm saying that the residency board has representation for the students in the several communications and education programs. Before they left, they vacated and went home. We made sure the decision was first taken at a level where students had representation there. Even at the level of students, even at the level of the University Council, you have students representation there. The final authority, the governing council of the University of Ghana, that is the final decision-making body for the university, has representation for students. And so if anybody sits out there to tell you that students' leaders were not consulted and they were never brought on board in terms of out of lack of information, I don't want to say use the word ignorant, but the person purely has no information. In terms of the University of Ghana's policy on accommodation, as I told you, and again, I'm sure you were not paying attention, the policy is simple. It is for now, in, out, out, out. Okay. In, out, out, out. We are piloting the policy, starting with Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Sabah Hall. Why are we starting with them? Because we do not want the violence that took place, last 2 years and last year to recur. And so we want to ensure that we safeguard human life and then create a conducive environment and atmosphere for learning. Anybody who doesn't understand this, the doors of the University of Ghana are open. We are willing to engage them should they reach out to us. And so nobody should say that reports are not ready and all that. You did not authorize, or you didn't authorize investigation into anything. And if you didn't ask anybody to go investigate anything, why do you want the report to be sent to you? I mean, are we a lawless society? Are we not being governed by rules? The University of Ghana is governed by rules. And so I'm very happy that some of these things have been taken to court. I am very happy that some of these things, it didn't result in brawl outside, but it's been taken to court. When we go to court, we will speak the language of law for all to understand. The point must be made that the University of Ghana cannot resort to be taking decisions that are whimsical and capricious. Every decision that is taken, the decision is guided by due processes of law.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me bring on Miss Pascaline Songsori, and then I will come into the studio for my guest to respond, the studio guest to respond to some of the issues you have raised, for example. Miss Pascaline Songsori, if you can hear me,
yes.
You have recently sanctioned some JCR executives. Some of the punishment, I understand, is about 3 academic years out of the university. This particular action you're being accused as having conducted or having taken on the back of your own intuitions and not based on law, in that the very investigation they all expect to have come out with recommendations you have not shared. Yet you have gone ahead to suspend these students, and by so doing, you are being malicious and also capricious.
Too long time ago. So
yes. So if you
for example,
realize,
I have Miss Songsori reacting to this. Please help us.
Well, I'm supplying information to him. The students have long been written to you.
Yeah. And I also want to add, if you'd realize that the last
Prof. Jampo, when you interject, you disrupt Ms. Songsori from making her point, and our audience are unable to really understand. Could you please help us? Let's.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Sonsori, please go ahead. Please go ahead,
Yes,
Miss Sonsori.
Yes, what I wanted to say was that the university has a disciplinary board for junior members, and there are rules and regulations regarding the operations of this board.
All right.
The vice chancellor, who is the chief disciplinary officer, has the right to bring a matter before the board, and to say that the students were just suspended without following due process, I think it's also very wrong. As I said earlier on, the board has done sittings. They sit like a court, if I can use that word. The students are made to bring in their lawyers. They make their case. There's a full report of the proceedings. And the university has invested so much in processes like this. In case you don't know, there is an appeals board where if students are aggrieved or they are not happy with this, they can go to. There's a whole hearing room that has been, set up, for processes such as this. So it's not a process that is a joke, or it's not a process that one person just gets up. The disciplinary committee has a list of guidelines they are guided by, or rules they are guided by to sit. They sit. There's a secretary, minutes are taken, everything. Students bring in their lawyers, they are interviewed, and all that. It works like a court. So we cannot at all say that the decisions were just taken or are too harsh. And these were done. Right. As I said, if you look at the release we issued a few days ago, it quoted specific aspects, of the statutes and also of the, it's just escaped me, the Code of Conduct for junior members that were breached, and for which reason these students were found. And I think as Prof. Jampo interjected, they were. I think he mentioned that they received their their letters, ahead, to inform them that it's the decision that was taken. So it is not that the university just sat down, or the VC just sat down, or the Pro VC just sat down and say, let's get these students suspended. There was a process, and there's a full report.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me come to the studio. I'll come back to you very shortly. Mr. Hansen, you are rather being non-cooperative, and you are not allowing processes to work. You are not supposed to come anywhere near the university because you are not members of the university. You are an alumni. You don't belong to the university. So why are you not allowing the university to work?
Thank you very much, Daryl. This is I wanted to draw Professor Jampo's attention to this critical part, as he termed as alumni are not part of the university's own basic law. Under the University of Ghana Act 2010 Act 806. If you go to section 3, it tells you about the membership of the university. Now, let me go straight to the composition, which says that the members of the university consist of A, the chancellor, B, the chairperson of the council. Now, if you go forward, even junior members, that is section E, and also alumni, even pensioners. So if Professor Jampo is saying that alumni are not part of the university, what is it? This is the law that is governing the university. So when he says that, the alumni is not part of he's swaying off the public, the crux of the matter. Now let me quickly draw attention to what is currently happening. Now, couple of students, spread all over the country, are unable to afford such residential facilities. They could only rely on the traditional halls, which are much affordable.
Traditional halls are not enough to accommodate everyone.
But you see, of course, but you see, that is why old vandals foresaw some of these accommodation challenges and said, let us provide an annex project for the vandal or the Commonwealth, or to accommodate some of these excesses. Now, as we speak, a lot of students are unable to, pay some of these hostel facilities. And I'll share with you after we leave here. There are some of the hostel facilities within the university that are charging even more, 3 times. Currently, I can mention of Ivandi Hostel, which is charging about 4,000 cedis.
That's a private business.
But it is a hostel facility. So if it's a challenge that you are now putting them into certain UGL hostel, which in the university, which the price is also high, not all the students can afford that. That is why we are saying that, look, if a few students, have involved themselves in some clash, identify those students and punish them. Don't punish the.
Are you ready?
You see, so
and are you in a position to give up your members if they were found?
That is why investigations are still ongoing. So you see, when investigation, we are governed by.
What investigation are you referring to?
That currently,
Ms. Pascaline and Prof. had just said these investigations have been completed.
In the own statement from the university regarding the sanction of the hall master, they stated it in there that the investigation are still going. I wanted to draw your attention. I have that here. Just give me a second and I'll pull it up.
Okay, while you pull it up, let me come to Mr. Tabo. Mr. Tabo, interesting, but is it that you do not want the university to have the mandated authority to govern and also control affairs of the university, or that because it has to do with Commonwealth Hall, then it's either your way or the highway?
No, I don't think that any of our positions thus far till this morning will suggest to anybody that we don't want the university to govern the university. That is far away from our point. Look, before I even come to that, Professor Jampo made some wild allegations, and I need him to listen. That we are not members of the university. One, and that is a lie. My brother just
sorry, but you could have chosen a better word.
No, but it's a lie.
Is a strong word.
It's a lie. A lie is a lie.
Please.
Anyway, what I want Professor Jampo to understand is that it is not in his position to tell if or not we are on top of the issues. I would have loved to have him here in studio, but I'll still address him. Look, the investigation that was concluded was led by one Adam Boma.
So you are aware of an investigation that has concluded?
That was in 2021. What we are talking about currently was the one that led to the current residential decision that the university has taken. And that investigation is still ongoing. And the Ghana police is the one in charge. So where from the assertion that the investigations were concluded? Look.
Have you engaged the Ghana police to find out if they have concluded their investigations?
Management of the university told us in the latest release that the investigation was still ongoing. But I want to draw a line between Professor Jampo's argument and our position.
Okay.
He says that the university has long entertained the in-out-out policy.
Yes.
Before they jettisoned that for a new policy and all of that. And now they want to revert to the same old policy. I ask, when the university was practicing that policy, was it a holistic approach to the entirety of the halls on campus, or there were selected few halls that merit that particular policy? Because you cannot take a policy directive that affects only a miniature of the people on campus when you are dealing with the generality of the entire campus. We are saying that the decision to take students from the Commonwealth Hall and the male students from the Saba Hall to the UJ hostel came as a result of the clash that occurred in August and in March of 2020. And that was captured by the university in their own minutes.
Yeah.
They had a residential board meeting to decide on this on 26th of October. And in that meeting, the university management says that they did not involve the management of the Commonwealth Hall and the student leadership at the Commonwealth Hall. Now, at every residential board meeting, who is well placed to be on that committee and decide for the students than the hall master of a hall? And if you have decided not to include the hall master of the hall, what does it mean? The JTI executives were not invited to that meeting, but you took a decision that affects everybody. And that is why we are interested. What we are saying is this. We are not saying that students should be entertained to continue some of those behaviors. When you have identified some of those things, investigate, which the Ghana police is still doing, is still ongoing with the Ghana police. Find those culprits and punish them. If we know those people, we will give them up for punishment, because nobody is interested in people destroying what have you. He mentioned that parents were calling that if this thing continues, there will be murders and co. In 2018, I had the opportunity to sit before the University Council, and I told them that the way security is porous on this campus, people can with machetes and cutlass and guns and kill people and go scot-free. In 2019, fast forward, that particular thing happened. A student was butchered on the stretch of Pen to Ivandi Hostel. Was it orchestrated by the Commonwealth and Cyber Clash?
If you say butchered, what do you mean?
Butchered with a machete. Butchered with a machete. That's what I mean. The word is butchered. Look, and so if Professor Jampo is mindful to tell us that saying the university has taken a lazy approach is below the belt, then he calling old vandals as people who are attached to nonsense. It's
He
not even.
He didn't say that here, though, did he?
On other platforms, not on this platform.
Then,
I don't want to go
sorry,
there, but
I'm sorry, but you cannot.
So what I want to
something
say,
he didn't say here.
well, that's fine. What I want to say is that the truth of the matter is that you cannot justify this unfair decision to the students by saying that you have made provisions for them in other halls instead of the halls that they normally belongs to. One,
but
because
that has been the policy position.
it has not been the policy
Out,
position.
out.
No, it has never been the policy position.
Okay, let me go to Brother Jampo.
No, before you go to Brother Jampo, I want to tell him something. Look,
sorry, I moderated this show.
No,
sorry, if I say I'm going
it's
to
a
him, let me
point
go
that will
to
help
him.
him. It will help him.
He will make his own mind. You won't help him in making his point.
No, they said they pick our students from Commonwealth or to Uje hostels.
Let me go.
Now the financial
let me get
guidance
to
from
Professor
Commonwealth.
Jampo, if you're with me, sir, I'm coming to you. Some of the elements within the governing council have been accused of also taking positions that necessarily are not within the law by asking over 400 or so students to go and look for accommodation when there are, in fact, places within the various halls. These your accusers are saying is because some of the governing council members have a certain dislike for vandals. Are you acting based on your intuition or emotions? And is what you're doing, in your view, going to enhance cordial relationship between governing council and student bodies?
It is a laughable thing to say that some members of the governing council do not like some students, and so they are asking them to go look for accommodation somewhere. If some members don't like some students, it means they like some students and they are giving preferential treatment to them. I mean, it's quite laughable. That is not the case. The University of Ghana, even before giving accommodation to those who we prioritized, i.e. the level 100 students, we gave the opportunity to only vandals, Commonwealth students and Mensa students to accept accommodation in the various UGL hostels, even before we started, all of them. And if you look at the numbers, they were around 1,300. As I speak to you today, about 1,280, over 1,280 have accepted the accommodation we give to them, and they've paid their fees. So what is the point in saying that council was disunited and some of them didn't like some students, and so they threw them out and asked them to go look for hostels? We had already made provisions for them. We provided for them even before we provided for our level 100 students. And then Hansen is in your studio. Hansen, I'm surprised. I've been playing football with him every Sunday. Even this Sunday, I played with him.
All right, okay, I think we've lost Prof. Jampo. Right, so you go playing football with Prof. Jampo and you come and sit on TV and you bash him.
Well, you see, that shows that, vandals, we are the misconception that is out there that vandals are rowdy, vandals are all manner of, it tells you that vandal. Let me take this opportunity to enlighten some of the people out there.
Vandal is just an acronym. I have your former JCR president joining us, Bernard Ogotechi, on via Zoom. Let me engage him briefly, and I'll come back to you. Good morning, Bernard. Thank you very much for joining us. Right. Okay. So I'm great. Bernard, really and truly, what are your issues? Bernard, if you can hear me.
So well, what about you two?
I am very, very well. You must be far away from the shores of Accra.
Mr. Host.
Mr. Host, please can you at least refer the host?
Prof. Jampo, please, I beg your pardon. We lost you momentarily, and so we went somewhere else. Kindly let us finish with Bernard, and we'll come back to you, please.
No, but I am back.
Yeah, but we have moved on, so let us finish with him, and we'll come back. Bernard, please go ahead and make your point. We'll engage Professor Jampo as we go on.
Alan, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers across the globe. And it is very unfortunate that a very academic environment that is supposed to produce very confident future leaders is seeking to intimidate people And Alan, I make a very strong point in the sense that the issue on board touches on so many facets of the society: social, cultural, financial. And let me take you briefly on the financial. Some of us got the opportunity to be affiliated to a traditional hall. When we talk of a traditional hall, it built in you a certain social connection and values. People who completed through University of Ghana via Legon Hall, Volta Hall, Saba, etc., will come to appreciate the enormity of the social network they possess. Beyond that is a kind of some cultural value it will build in you. Alan, we are never against private hostels springing up. But let's come to the financial argument. As we speak today, if a student gets the opportunity to be in a traditional or academic year, he or she pays 1,500 Ghana cedi. If such a student doesn't get the opportunity to be in a traditional hall, such a student will pay something no less than 4,000 Ghana cedi in addition to the academic facility user fee. So overall, if we put the daily expense of students together, plus academic facility user fee, and if such students are pushed outside their traditional hall, we are talking about spending close to 15,000 cedis in academic year. Alan, I can assure you, I come from the Bono region of Ghana. Across the 16 regions of Ghana, many parents in Ghana cannot afford this particular financial burden on them. Alan, don't forget that per the 1992 Constitution, under the directive principle of state policy, education is a right, not a privilege. And if we are not careful, it gets to the point that we are going to auction education, and it's going to be the highest bidder. So the point all vendors are making and current students are making is that let us create a certain environment where that student can get the opportunity to be in a traditional hall. Alan, let me make this passionate appeal to the president of Ghana. And I'm saying this thing with all passion and alacrity. Alan, I know Yoko and IBD are watching this show this morning. Alan, the Old Vendor Association in Ghana, we've done our own investigation. And we've come to the realization that the very reason why the university management is bent on introducing and implementing in-out policy, it is not because of social good, but it is because of financial good some people ought to stand to gain. Why are we saying that? Alan, I'm making an appeal to Yoko and National Investigation Bureau of Ghana that they should conduct a forensic investigation and establish the true owners of the private hostels around the enclave of University of Ghana. And it will blow your mind. And I know the presidency of Ghana today is watching this show. And I dare say, the last argument is that let me come to the social argument. The very essence of law is to punish a wrongdoer. Why do you visit the sin of a father on innocent children? Are we saying today that if a lecturer in University of Ghana commits a blunder, we should collapse his department, assuming without admitting, a law professor, political science department lecturer, goes ahead and commits a blunder? It could be sexual, it could be immoral, it could be academic blunder. Alan, are we making the argument that because the lecturer is a staff of a department, the university should make a bold attempt to collapse?
Right, okay, I think we've lost Bernardo Dotechi, but his point has been well made. He's called on UCO and other investigative authorities to go into the matter and find out who the owners are behind private hostels. Mr. Hansen, before we went to Professor Jampo, I'm sure he would also join us very shortly as we come to the concluding part of this. But then let's come to the nitty-gritty of whatever your argument has been since we've been on here. Now, this is what we have. Whether we like it or not, the issues are still hanging. In your view, investigations have not concluded, and so the university must not take whatever actions they have taken. If the university, as we speak, is saying there is a report that has come from the investigation, and so it is concluded, and they are taking the recommendations on board by suspending some students, what do you propose will be the way forward and the most effective way to deal with that and not to truncate anybody's education?
Okay, first of all, let me mention that just last week, the students succeeded in receiving or being granted an injunction on this residential policy, which I mean, it's in the public domain already. That tells you that until I'm very careful in discussing the nitty-gritty of the issue because the matter is referred to the court. However, what we are basically asking the university is, look, these are issues that are generational clashes. If you want to investigate and find out some of this and solve this generational problem, get the alumni involved. Currently, there are several levels of engagement that is currently happening, even on the students level, where Commonwealth Hall and Mensa Sabah Hall.
Are you saying the authorities are unable to manage it effectively, and so without your alumni input, it would go nowhere?
Absolutely, because you need the alumni's involvement in this. I wanted to quote one of the Martin Luther King. He was interviewed on the show regarding the Vietnam War, what his thoughts were and all of that, and he mentioned very clearly that at the time the president listened to his advisors and he realized that if he had listened or engaged with the key stakeholders involved, I mean, some of the issues could have been resolved.
Sure.
And that what we are actually asking for, following what Martin Luther King indicated, that his those in authority must engage, and as such, if they are wrong, they should rescind their decision and engage with the stakeholder. That will lead to a long-lasting solution.
Thank you very much. Let me take that to Ms. Songsori, and then Ms. Songsori, thank you very much for staying with us. I'm coming back to you. Given where we are currently, and given the fact that whether we like it or not, the university has taken a decision that is informed by the outcomes of the investigation, will the university be minded to consider or reconsider their position, especially when it comes to suspending those students for 3 academic years, to perhaps bring it down somewhere and, send some form of warning to them to say, well, you be reconsider to come back, but going forward, you'll be under some bond or some kind of underwriting to make sure you stay in the straight and narrow?
I think that is up to the students if they feel that they have not been treated well to go through the approved processes for doing that. The university has done what it's supposed to do based on the various provisions and gone through the various processes. So it's up to the students to go through. As I said earlier on, there is an appeals board and other avenues they can do that through. But this is what the university has decided based on what has happened or transpired during the sittings of the disciplinary committee for junior members.
Right.
So I would say that now. I also wanted to bring, there was a statement that was made regarding the prices of the various accommodation facilities on campus. We have to bear in mind that the accommodation facilities at the youth jail halls are not the same as what is in the traditional halls. Yeah. Traditional halls, you have about 4 or 5 people in a room, and a whole floor is sharing a number of bathrooms. At the UGL halls, about 4 people in a room are sharing, there's a bath and toilet inside the room. So the cost cannot be the same. I wanted to emphasize that. Right. Also, the representatives in the studio kept on saying that investigations are not completed and decisions have been made. We also need to bear in mind that there were various or several investigative committees that were working on different matters. This matter is very complex. There are various issues. So as and when a decision was made on one, action was taken. So I think we need to school ourselves on how the processes work. Right. Also, to say that there wasn't involvement of students is very wrong. The residence board is made up. I'm secretary to the residence board. Right. It's made up of representation of JCR presidents from the various halls, both UGL halls, traditional halls, and also even the private facility. The hall masters and managers of all those places are also members of the residence board. Right. So decisions are taken collectively. Prof. Jampo mentioned earlier on that on council, the SRC president is a representative, and I think also Grassa. So there's a representation, and decisions are taken at all these levels. So it's very important that I state these issues.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Prof. Jampo, if you're still with us, please. Going forward.
I have always been with you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Going forward, this is what we have. In fact, you play football with some of these representatives. And so going forward, will the university perhaps reconsider the decision and find another way of meting out punishment as opposed to
Hansen is there. He's just running his mouth. He's my small boy on the pitch. I've been dribbling him.
And you're still dribbling him, aren't you? You're still dribbling him. Anyway, so before
I've been dribbling even last Sunday.
Even last Sunday you lost. Lord Hansen, last Sunday you lost. So Professor Jampo, let's wrap this up. Before you leave us, what will you say will be the way forward? One, to solving the issue of security on campus, and also what measures is the university considering to ensure that these clashes will no longer be the case, especially when you have, as you have said, some have gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Professor Jampo, if you're with us, could you please reposition your handset?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right,
but two things before I respond to your question. Number one, not members of the university community. What I said, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. What I said was that, I just want to clarify something. What I said was that old vandals are not members of the university community. I didn't say alumni are not members of the university community. Right. When you talk about UG alumni, you are talking about all those who are done with UG, those who have passed through UG and they are done. And so it is wrong for us to assume that only one group that is called old vandals are the ones that must be given preferential treatment to be dictating to the university as to how they have to run affairs. That is wrong. Right. I never said alumni are not members of the university. Alumni even have representation on the UG's council. Okay, right. But not old vandals. So let's note that distinction and draw that line of demarcation. Number two, the former JCR president asked a question that if one person does something that is wrong, would it be appropriate for us to punish everybody? If one lecturer or whoever in a department does something that is wrong, will it be appropriate to collapse the entire department? I think he should not be comparing oranges to pineapples. If one person does something and it is wrong, the system fishes him out and but I tell him, he himself who spoke, he hasn't got the courage and the testicular fortitude to quote their own words, to be able to own or point to anybody who ran afoul of their laws. In a lecture hall, if somebody misbehaves and you tell them, who did X, Y, Z, they don't want to fish the person out. My friends sitting in the studio, I put it to them, ask them whether they have the courage to be able to point to somebody for having done something wrong. They would never cooperate in trying to fix out anybody who has done anything wrong. And so the point is, going forward, as you asked, going forward, what we can do is that it is true. It is true that it is not fair to use one person's mistake or the offense committed by 2 or 3 people, use it as a basis to punish an entire group. We agree. And I personally would agree to that assertion. But so what do? Don't we have to work together? So those who feel that, well, some wrong has been done, or those who think that they've been treated unfairly, what do they have to do? Don't they reach out and sit down, like I said earlier? I was talking to some former old vandals, they are top echelons, and I was telling them that, look, we all do not like this thing that is going on. Look, we've all been students before. I'm a proud Ikwafo Hall person. And anytime they went on possession, they came for us. They said we were subjects, and we all went with them. And we loved the kind of things that we did. But these things never degenerated into violence. And so we can all sit down and dialogue and make the point that, look, it would be so unfair to just use the mistakes of 3 people or 4 people, the violence perpetrated by about 5 people, and use it as a basis to punish everybody. We can talk about that. But my fear or my worry is that they are not engaging. They are not reaching out. And so going forward, to be able to bring finality to some of these things, as I said earlier, the rules and the regulations or the policies that are made, they are not casting stones. They can be reviewed. And they will only be if we all sit down and dialogue. And so to prevent some of these things from recurring, we all must work together.
Sure.
It should never be that the university is taking one line and then others would claim that, well, we are not supportive of the violence, but they don't also want to reach out and dialogue. I mean, then we'll be going nowhere. And
Sure.
so let it be placed on
Sure.
record. Me, Rans, for example, I am not in favor of any attempt. I wouldn't support any attempt to destroy any tradition, and none of the members of management is interested in destroying any tradition.
Yeah.
But the point is that what to certain decisions have to be taken, and if those decisions are taken and those who are affected are not happy, they reach out. And then we sit down and solution that will bring a win-win situation and then ensure that the academic environment also all go ahead and have our fun as one people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jampo. Thank you so very much. Let me come to Bernard Odro-Techi. BOT, thank you very much for staying on. This is where we are. There must be a way forward. There must be a way out. What do you propose going forward should take place? I think we have lost Bernard, so when he joins us, or if he's able to, we will engage him. Now, Mr. Tago, your bro code, your unwillingness to give out your members when they're wrong, so they receive the appropriate punishment, is the reason why this vicious cycle seems to be in place. How do you respond?
Well, I think that is just an assumptive analysis, because for me,
Is it?
of course it is.
What makes it so?
Because if I know any of my colleagues who misconduct himself in a way that endangers or compromise on the university, trust me, I will fish the person out. Why would I keep the person? No one would do that. Why would I keep the person? What we are saying is that the university should go beyond just punishing everybody for things that they were not responsible for. As of now, we cannot point at A or B or C as guilty of those clashes. But in the university's own communique, they stated that the decision to relocate students of Commonwealth Hall and male students of Mensa Sabah Hall to the Ijil hostel is as a result of the clashes. So I ask, if I am Samson in the Commonwealth Hall, I've not been found guilty of those clashes by any competent court of jurisdiction or committee or what have you.
And that's in line with the in, out policy.
And I am saying that is not logical. It is not logical, because if you want to implement
even if that means effective management of the halls?
How is that an effective management of the hall?
Because there are no
clashes that we are referring to did not happen in the premises of the hall.
Okay.
It happened elsewhere. And if we want to hold somebody accountable to that happening, strictly speaking, it should be the chief disciplinary officer of the university. It should be the chief spender of the university. And who is the chief spender of the university? You cannot say that because a clash has happened somewhere, other people who were innocent of that clash suffered the fate. And they are saying that they did not leave the students to their fate. They are reallocating them to UJ hostels.
Yes, and
the students are not calling to be sent to UJ hostel for themselves, because the amount of money it will take them to be members of the UJ hostel is way, way, way beyond what they have paid for at the Commonwealth. And so if there is a new policy directive to settle certain issues, it should not come at the expense of the students who were not even willing and ready financially to embark on this journey.
Are you aware that not everyone resident at the Commonwealth, in the Commonwealth Hall, is actually one that has been allocated a place there, but that there are some who were perching?
I'm not aware anybody is perching, but if the university is aware people are perching, they should deal with it.
Right. Let me
add this one to it for you.
For the sake of time, let me quickly go to Bernard and then I'll come back to you. Bernard, thank you very much for rejoining us. Going forward, Bernard, this is what we have. This is where we are. Whether we like it or yes, the decision has been made. How do you propose this whole issue be amicably resolved? Bernard, please unmute your microphone. If you can hear me, kindly unmute your microphone. All right. Okay. I think he's having a difficulty unmuting his microphone. Please do and rejoin us. Let me go to Lord Hansen. Lord Hansen, there were patches. As far as the university is concerned, yes, I think Bernard is back. Bernard,
hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Now, the submission, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
the submission by Professor Jampo in response to my direct question on if a wrong committed by a singular lecturer should warrant the collapse of a department goes to confirm that the university has erred. See, in life, everybody else come to the table. What is the way forward? Number one, the challenge of the university as of today is purely accommodation. My proposal is that the Old Vanda Association has a project called the VCA project. I am recommending to the Ministry of Education and Office of the President of Ghana, they should quickly intervene and find out from the university why is it that the Old Vandal Association, in their contribution to solve the perennial accommodation problem, has received a stoppage by the university. And if the Ministry of Education and the Office of the President embark on this mission, they will realize that some management officials are not there to serve the interest of the university. Point number two, as we speak today, the Land Traditional Council, who originally gave part of their land for University of Ghana to be set up today, they have gone to court to say that a portion of the land are being used for what they were not meant to be. So they, being the alluvial owners, are calling for their land to be given them back. Alan, if today you are giving out land to be set up for filling stations, shopping malls, and the whole Vanda fraternity want to put up an accommodation facility to accommodate over 5,200 students, and the Vice Chancellor wants to stop this project, then I want to recommend that the President of Ghana and the Ministry of Education must take a keen interest. The way forward, it will not save anybody's interest to proceed to court. It amounts to an issue of wastage of time. Look, late President Rollins said one thing, that laws were made for men, men were not made for laws. So even if the Constitution of Ghana, that serves as the supreme law of Ghana, is not too sacrosanct and can be amended with time, why can't we amend the singular policy? My last submission is that let us remain the status quo. The tradition must be upheld. And when the tradition is upheld, the fraternity, I'm assuring you on this show, will also want to make sure program for the current vendors, because some of us are also practically not happy about the turn of event. But let us revert to the status quo. The home must remain. The tradition must remain. And when we succeed in that, and the students are back to the hall, and the tradition is protected, then we, the Old Vandals Association, can come on board fully to do two things. Number one, to get the Old Vandals have an annual orientation program to ensure that the children, the students of today, will go by the dictate of what will make the university a place to be. When these two things are done, the whole hula baloo of media banter, media engagement will be a thing of the past. But in ending, let no one, whether a vice chancellor, pro-vice chancellor, a professor, arrogate to himself that they hold all the powers to make the school ungovernable. Because at the end of the day, University of Ghana is regulated by an act of parliament, a statute, and a host of other policies. But these policies are not sacrosanct in itself, because in conclusion, laws are made for men, men are not made for laws.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Laws are made for men, men are not made for laws. Thank you very much. That was Bernard Odro-Techi, a former JCR president at the University of Ghana's Commonwealth Hall. Let me come to you, Lord Hanson. Until today, I didn't know you could dribble your professor. Anyway, this is where we are. We must be getting ready to wrap up. Going forward, is it your view that the university, as you have said not long ago, is unwilling to engage you, and for that matter, nothing can be done to resolve this crisis?
Thank you very much, Daryl. As my brother Bernardo indicated, he outlined a series of activities that I can confirm or believe that it's in the right direction. That once we get this hurdle done, we will be orienting the students. I mean, there's going to be orientation, because old vandals must come on board in some of these, and we believe that we are a key stakeholder in some of these matters. Now, we believe that there are generational gaps. I mean, some completed school in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even some are, still going through the system. We believe that when all these year groups come together to, discuss some of these traditions that, helps in student development, student leadership, and all of that, and also unearthing talent within the university. I believe that, the core fundamental reason why the students, of Commonwealth or must be, encouraged to, learn and also be the best as they can will move forward. And finally, I believe that the university, we are open for, some of these stakeholder engagement. We believe that whenever some of these issues arise, they should get the old vandals involved. And finally, I'll take this opportunity to also acknowledge some of the old vandals who are also listening to us all over the United States, the old vandal UK and the old vandal North American and Australia, and also the various regional branches who are also watching us live here, that they should keep on supporting us so that we bring a long-lasting solution to this. Nobody wants a clash within the university. We want a solution, and the solution that will fit all. We believe that the annex projects is something that is going to reduce or help eliminate some of these accommodation challenge. So thank you for giving us this platform as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say a big thank you to Ms. Pascaline Songsori for joining us via Zoom. Madam, we're really very grateful you could join us and stayed with us all the time. Same goes to Professor Jampo. Prof. Jampo, we're really very grateful. Bernardo Dotechi, we are thankful for your joining us all the way from wherever you are off the shores of Ghana. And to you both, we are really very grateful, and keep the good work going. You want to sing your anthem? You charged earlier on, and I had to run away, and you want to charge in the studio?
We cannot do that without giving the
sure, your morale is here, so go on. The two of you.
Our vandals, no tension, we are waiting by the grace of God. Shabu, shabu, our vandals, Supapa, our vandals, Supapa, our vandals, Supapa, our vandals, Supapa, Ubeka.